Well, hello everybody. Danny and Wanda back. And guys, we want to talk a little bit about the year 2023, the year that changed mine and Wanda's life forever.
And this is not a live broadcast tonight.
Right.
We had to do it earlier and just upload it. So you're not seeing a live. We're hoping that it's a premiere, and you do have a live chat that we will try to monitor. But
well, let's just be honest. We have a new internet system we're working with, and the key there is working with, because we are having to reset everything that we have, because we were on this old Gen 5 HughesNet system that. You know, and we had, after years, we kind of figured out how to get it where it was, kind of halfway decent. But this new system, totally different. So we're having to learn it.
We're hoping it'll work out, and we're hoping that at Pecan Grove we can go outside and do some internet things live and stuff. But it's just going to take us a while.
It's going to take a while.
Since we got it, Danny and I both have been sick. It's been about 16, 17 days since Danny got sick.
Yeah. And
tomorrow will be 2 weeks or 14 days since I got sick. And you bounced back a little bit faster than I did. After about 6 days, Danny was starting to rally around and feel a lot better.
We're still not 100%.
I'm still coughing.
Still
got this congestion a little bit, and I'm still weak. I can do things, but it takes me 10 times longer to do it.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, today is January the 6th.
We're a little behind.
We're a little bit behind. But January the 6th last year, if I'm not mistaken, is the day we actually purchased Pecan Grove.
Yeah, it was something that Danny and I married in 2013.
Yeah.
And we knew the year we married that we might not stay at what we call Deepsouth Homestead. Danny had looked at a lot of property at that point. Yeah. And we talked about moving or whatever, and things just didn't manifest. And so over the last 11 years, we pretty much just built Deepsouth as a homestead.
Yeah, we kind of accepted the fact that's where we're going to be at for the rest of our life. And, like Wanda said, I've looked high and low. I actually at one time had a buyer for Deepsouth Homestead all lined up, and Wanda and I got married. In other words, I could have sold it right then for a sizable amount of money, and we decided at that point not to do it. We decided, no, this is where we want to live, and it has turned out to be a journey for us. I mean, we actually built an empire there, literally.
Every inch of the place. We started out with mainly redoing the house some, because he did build it for his previous wife that passed away from cancer. And we tweaked the house. Yeah. We did little projects off and on in the house here and there. And we do have those videos, a lot of them on Deepsouth Homestead. We have a lot of the DIY videos where we took the fireplace out and turned it into a put a wood heater there, moved the doors,
French
windows,
doors and windows, and put up beams.
Added an office, Then we've added the she shed, a cabin,
high tunnels,
barn. We put all this DIY stuff out there, and Deepsouth has been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And we've shown how to grow. We've got videos, and we hope this year to kind of take some of the older videos and combine a few and do a few throwbacks off and on throughout the year, either DIY or growing or canning or whatever.
Yeah.
But 2023, I guess the end of 2022.
Well, it's actually September of 2022, we actually came across Pecan Grove property and began the negotiations at that point. And we really figured we would purchase it before the end of the year, but the real estate attorney had to have surgery, and we could not make it come to fruition in 2022.
So January, what'd you say, the 6th?
Yeah.
last year we signed on Pecan Grove. It is 40 acres, has a few little buildings on it. We actually started enjoying it before then because we knew we were purchasing it.
We knew we were going to get to purchase it, and I wasn't 100% sure about the purchase. Let me put it that way. But the gentleman that owned the property, him and his wife, I actually came over and would start helping them because they had some wiring issues in some of the buildings that weren't working right and stuff. And I just, out of the goodness of my heart, came over with all my equipment and stuff, and I rewired a lot of their stuff for them, and I just helped them out, you know, for about 6 months. I was over back and forth, you know, doing this and doing that, and bringing my tractor over, you know, doing things to help them out and everything. And
that led to us
led to us purchasing
it.
Yeah.
And during that time, we got to do a lot of walking the property. They allowed us to just have free reign.
Yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time last winter and last spring getting to know it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to start a homestead, you really want to know your property. You know, and it took you until this past week.
Well, actually, I had run the landlines the previous 30 years ago. You know, I mean, I knew all the perimeters, but I had not been on it in over 30-something years, and everything's changed because the old elderly gentleman that lived here, very good man, he passed away almost 30 years ago.
25 years ago.
Yeah, 25 years ago. And there was nothing done to the place after that. I mean, he had cattle on it and everything, and then when the cattle had been took off of it several years prior to his death, and it had begun to grow up, and then we had Hurricane Katrina that happened, and all the timber got blew down on here. I think they told me there was over $200,000 worth of, almost $300,000 worth of timber blowed down that they could not get anybody to come do anything with, so it just laid here. And when that happened, the bushes and the briars and everything began to grow up around it. And
the gentleman had everything fenced and everything cross-fenced.
Yeah.
In the last year, we have found fencing everywhere because of the trees down. And Danny, just this past week, has finally just gotten to some parts of the property that were almost
inaccessible, really, without heavy equipment. And I had been working on a road to get back into a specific place in a swamp on the property, and I finally just had to quit because it was just getting too deep into a swamp, and I just got out and walked it, you know. I mean,
so we know what basically almost every inch looks like now.
Yeah.
At least he does.
I do, yeah.
And I've been on
You've probably been on a little more than half of it.
Yeah, probably half.
Yeah.
And some of it is cleared. Danny's cleared a good bit. We had a lot of overgrown trees and bushes and smilax and yopons and privy and
tongue nuts
galore, and we'll never get that kind of stuff under control because all the properties around us are just full of tongue nuts.
Right.
Everybody has thousands of them on their property and nobody gets rid of them. So we've tried to eliminate as many as possible.
And popcorn trees.
And popcorn trees.
Yes.
And so Danny has gradually in a year moved trees around, and we're letting them go back to the dirt so that we have the soil.
We
eventually.
have brought in track hoes and dozers and stuff like that, as we have the money to be able to do small projects around the property. The one y'all seen, probably the latter one that we've done, was the pecan orchard at one part of the property.
We were so surprised with that.
I mean, there was so many oak trees growed up in this pecan orchard that you couldn't see the pecan orchard to know that it was even there. I just happened to go around through there with ribbons and tied around the big pecan trees I found, and I come to the conclusion, I said, these were actually planted in rows. And when I got the dozer guy in, I told him what I wanted, and the man done a fantastic job. He did not damage one tree and took up every oak tree in there and laid them down where we could cut them up into firewood. And then Mark came and Chris came, and we was able to cut them all up into firewood. And well, not all of them yet. Some of them are still laying out there that I've got another person who's helping me cut them up. And now we have a beautiful pecan orchard with pretty green ryegrass in it.
That the deer love.
Oh, the deer love it. Y'all seen some pictures of the deer.
The deal is, we wanted a place, this has been Danny's dream and my dream all the 10 years, was to find a place that we could watch deer.
Yeah.
Take a deer if we needed to.
Yeah.
But at least be able to watch deer, watch the wildlife and things like that. And when we purchased this property, y'all, we've been a little more relaxed with things.
Oh yeah, we've been a lot
And
more
we
relaxed.
sit and watch things and take video of things. And we chose, when we bought this property, not to do a DIY beginning to end, what we're doing at Pecan Grove.
Right.
I took small clips here and there. And so on Pecan Grove, we opened the channel up to show you some of the small clips I did. I did them on Patreon, I think, over the year, but we didn't really show you step by step. That was not our goal. We wanted to just relax. We wanted to enjoy life. Everybody kept telling us, y'all need to enjoy life a little bit. So that's what we've done this past year.
Yeah.
Yes, we've worked.
It's been a lot of hard work, but we've used a lot of large equipment to do the work with. Now, I've done a lot of work with tractors and stuff like that. I think this year I put over 400 hours on a tractor this year. And,
a lot.
And it's that's a lot of hours to put on a tractor, you know, working. But you know, now we have.
It looks amazing.
It doesn't even look like the same piece of property anymore.
No, and you're working on a fencing now.
I'm still working on fencing.
We're on the next cross fencing, the next paddock that he's working on.
My third paddock.
And then we still have some perimeter fencing that we did not get done in the spring that will be done this spring.
I have everything laid out for a 10-acre fourth paddock.
Yeah.
So we're actively just trying to get one thing at a time done, and when we get one part done, we'll move to the next phase. And we, you know, we're not getting in no big hurry. One thing we learned years ago is take your time, decide where you want everything at before you do it. And then, you know what, Deepsouth has been farmed to death. Let me just say that. I've farmed that place for the last 30-something years, and it needs a rest.
We did the graze-on thing.
Yes, we did.
And that really freaked us out about 5 years ago when we figured out that we had used our own goat manure and we had used our own cow manure, and found out that our plants were dying and our plants were misshapen and weird looking. And,
it was bad.
And we were having lots of issues, and it took Danny a lot of research to figure it out.
Yeah.
But when he found out about Graze-On and 2,4-D and Remedy that people use on their hay, and that it goes through the cow system or the goat system or
sheep or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Then you get that still, and it'll kill your plants. And we had dumped on one of our food plots where we grew our food. We had dumped bucket loads.
About 10 tractor bucket loads of manure.
And it's been 5 or 6 years, and stuff will grow there. But it's just now starting to get back to normal. It takes years to get that out of there. So letting things rest this year again should help that process a little bit. The greenhouses, we still plan on downing both greenhouses, taking everything out and starting from scratch on some of it.
Yeah, because we got a lot of the dirt that's in there, or soil, whatever you want to call it, has been in those containers for what, 4 years now?
Over 3 years.
Over 3, close to 4, and most of them are nothing but worm castings because we have worms in all of our pots, and the soil just keeps going down because they keep eating it, and we keep adding more. Well, it's become nothing but just buckets of worm castings, basically. And we really need to revamp every one of the containers and everything like that. And
that's a big chore.
That's a big chore.
To take all those containers out, because Danny and I physically cannot do it. We have to have equipment or help, and it all has to come out, be dumped, and new soil added and mixed in and rearranged. And so just the greenhouses this year will be a major undertaking to take every plant out, clear them all out and start fresh. That's
now you have to
a big
understand. At Deep South, we are in a 46-inch deficit of water. Our ponds right now, a bird can walk across them and not get his belly wet. I mean, that's how that's how low they are. We have a few fish left, and a few of them we can see swimming around in the water. But
we lost most.
We lost a lot of our fish because we're at a 46-inch rain deficit. And to be honest with you, there's no way really we're going to catch that up this year, unless we have back-to-back hurricanes dumping 6 and 8 inches of rain or more every time one comes through, just to get the water table back up to where it needs to be. Right now our ponds are at static water level.
Didn't you say it had done this once before?
The last time, according to the news people here, the last time we went through a drought and we was this far of a deficit was 1913.
So that's a long time.
1913,
that's 100 years.
We had tremendous floods and everything that year. And just prior to that, and there was another one that come really, really close. I think it was 1921 or 1932. These are other years that come really close to that deficit, but not quite as bad as it is now. Now, ties, I think they said with 1913, I believe it was. So, and I've talked to a lot of elderly people in at Pecan Grove, in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood over at Deepsouth Homestead in their 80s, and they've all told me that they've never in their lifetime seen anything like it is now. I mean, they're just blown away. They said, this is bad. You know?
None of them have seen this much of a drought. And where we live in this one area here, a lot of people say, but Wiggins got rain, or the coast got rain, y'all should have got rain.
Right.
The way our land sits, the rain can just totally go around us and we never get rain. There's pockets like that all over the United States that happens that way, and we just happen to be in one. It's according to which way the weather's coming from.
Well, there at Deep South, we lay between two creeks there. Mm-hmm. We have a creek about a quarter mile in front of us and a creek a quarter of a mile on the other side of us. And when the rains come, because we're at the highest elevation in our district around here, the rain actually splits and runs those two creeks. And the ridge that we live on in between those two creeks misses the rain lots of times. And the soil at Deep South is so sandy that literally when you got a 40-something inch deficit, we just made our mind up. There's no need in us trying to grow anything there. That's why we're moving over to Pecan Grove with our growing, is to try to see, there's a little bit more rain has fallen. The pond's not in as bad a shape as the ones at Deep South Homestead is. Now the one over is probably about 4-5 foot low maybe.
It is low.
It's low now but they've had more rain. The 5th, which was yesterday, the day before we're making this video, everybody around us got tons of rain. We got 1 1/4 inch of rain is all we got. Rain, a 1 1/4 inch of rain in our deficit is like pouring a glass of water into a pond and expecting it to fill up. It's just not going to happen. I mean, we welcome it, and we're thankful that it happened.
It was a lot of beautiful rain.
But it was, and
windy.
Oh, it was very windy. But we sit back and listen to it rain, and we were sitting there going like, man, it must be rained 2 or 3 inches, and we went outside and it's just a little over an inch. I mean, because we just haven't seen that much rain. So that's one reason we're moving over to Pecan Grove with a lot of our growing, is that Pecan Grove, the other day Deep South got like 1 inch of rain. Pecan Grove got like 2 1/4 inches, which meant it got a little bit, almost double what Deep South got. So we feel like we have better soil at Pecan Grove. We've got just a better opportunity in the drought that we're in to raise more of our food. Now, do we have to combat animals a little bit more? Yeah, we're going to have to combat animals.
We had to fight the raccoons and the deer, mainly the raccoons.
Mainly the coons and the possums.
And the corn this past year.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal, but You know, Danny planted enough.
I planted enough.
They did not totally destroy everything, but they did their damage. The deer did their damage with the cover crops. We did a whole bunch of greens. We envisioned giving greens to everybody in the county, and the deer ate them all.
We didn't get it. We didn't even get any for ourselves.
Half an acre, or
we was close to 3/4 of an acre of just. We had kale, turnip greens, purple top turnips. You know, I mean, we had all this stuff.
We didn't even get one bite.
And we didn't even get the first green off of it. And still to this day, the little roots that's in the ground, when they try to come up, the deer are still just eating them off. I mean, when we talk about deer, we're talking about herds of deer, not just one or two.
And that's a blessing and a curse. We've learned that we love watching them. We love to be able to see them. We can take one. Actually, we took our first deer this week.
Took our first deer this week.
And so that'll give us fresh meat for a while. But we also have to learn to fortify everything we do in order to have food. And so we're learning. It's a learning curve. And 2023 changed us.
It did. It changed us drastically.
It changed a lot in our lives, and it made us appreciate a lot of things that we have. It made us slow down a little bit. Even though we're working pretty hard, we're still slowing down. We're still finding time to sit and to enjoy. And so we hope in 2024 to have some deer videos, gardening videos, fencing videos.
There's some things that Pecan Grove that we don't have that we have at Deepsouth Homestead. It's one is the fruit trees.
Yeah.
You know, Deepsouth has mega fruit trees, and they're bearing. Now this past year we had a disaster because the drought. Nothing grew.
First off, we had that 2 nights of
freezes that actually knocked out everything.
Everything bloomed out. It was looking beautiful. We had 2 nights in the 20s. Killed all the blooms. We still had some fruit, but it was not what we should have had.
No, it was in limited quantities, and it wasn't of really good quality.
And then with no rain, everything just wanted to dry up and shrivel up.
The figs were our biggest loss. And you think about a fig tree growing in the Middle East, even in biblical times, it grew in the Mediterranean areas and all that. And you think about the dry, arid areas and the figs produced, and our figs this year just dried up and fell off the tree. I mean, it was that dry. Our pears shriveled up on the trees. Our peaches, they all just fell off the trees. I mean, our muscadines, most of them fell off before they matured.
The only thing that did pretty well was the citrus, and it was in containers.
Yes.
And the citrus did really well.
The blueberries did fair.
And the blueberries did good.
They did pretty good.
So, blueberries and citrus were our big deal.
But now at Pecan Grove over there, we have quite a few blueberry bushes over there. That's very mature. We've moved most of our citrus trees over there because we're going to be trying to take care of them over there this year rather than at Deepsouth Homestead here. So we're trying to figure it out. We're planting some fruit trees over there. We're planting some pear trees and some fig trees and some peach trees and apple trees and stuff because we don't actually know what we'll produce over there. We know there's a muscadine vine.
Oh, it's awesome.
We have one that produces, the old man had that produces big like 50-cent size muscadines.
That's the best muscadines.
Ooh, they're good.
They're awesome.
And then we have some wild ones that produced hundreds of thousands of muscadines.
And we have every variety of animal coming to them to eat. I probably had 7 or 8 different varieties of animals
on video
that came to eat these wild muscadines. So we don't want to lose that vine. And that's the other thing that makes Pecan Grove so appealing right now in a time when you don't know what's going to happen with your food supply. We have a variety of wild edibles. Every time we show things, people like the Smilax. People are saying, if you would research Smilax, you would not take all that up. Well, Danny and I have a living off the land on Smilax. 6-7 years ago, Danny did a living off the land, and he shows Smilax at Deepsouth Homestead, and he shows that it can be eaten and things like that. We know all that. It's not that we need to be told that.
Right.
But we have enough Smilax we could feed.
We could probably feed half of the country.
So what he took up on fence rows is just a minute drop in the bucket.
Drop in the bucket.
So we have the Smilax, we have wild huckleberries, and we have even the yopons.
Oh yeah,
you can make yopon tea.
Yeah.
Danny took down quite a few, but y'all don't realize there's
hundreds of thousands more that there is.
And we took the tongue nuts down, lots and lots of the tongue nuts. But all you got to do is ride through the woods, and they're still there.
They're popping up everywhere.
Well, they're still big trees.
Well, they're still big trees. Yeah, we didn't get them all.
And so, if we need tongue nuts for any reason, they are here. And
the old popcorn trees, I can tell how many the dozers have took up, the trackhoes have took up, I've took up, and they're still just everywhere. You know what I mean? So we have our work cut out for us.
And so there's like all kinds of wild edibles. There's all kinds of wild animals if we need fresh meat.
Yeah.
We have our chickens and we have our turkey. I mean, chickens, rabbits, and cows. That's the only 3 we have now.
We are actively considering building another hog pen because the gentleman who produced our pork for us has since then shut his business down, and he doesn't do it anymore. So Wanda and I, we don't have a way to get any good pork anymore, and we definitely not buying from a store. We don't buy any meat from a store. We refuse to do that. We just do without meat, become a vegetarian before we get to that point. But so we're probably going to start, building us another pig pen to raise us a pig again.
We have the woods at Pecan Grove in order to let a pig have some rooting area and have stuff, because even the pecans and different things, pigs love that kind of stuff.
Pigs love that kind of stuff.
And we did end up with some pecans this year, so we know that some of the trees produce.
They are, and I actually picked up several gallons of pecans. I didn't know how they were going to turn out, how they were going to taste, so I made sure they cured. And I really didn't crack them until right before Christmas. And guys, let me tell you something. They were fantastic. And some subscribers had sent us some pecans, and I cracked those, and they were good. They were really good. Ones at Pecan Grove were excellent also.
So we know if we take care of these trees, because they've been let go and they've let all the underbrush just take over.
Take them over, yeah.
We've cleared out a lot. Danny's even taken some of the young saplings and he's cleaning out around those to give them a chance. And some of those, even some of those had produced a few.
Lots of the pecan trees, they made small pecans, and you let us know what size pecans was going to be on what trees. We found a large amount of trees just growed up in fence rows in the woods that squirrels were eating, and I actually ended up eradicating a lot of squirrels this year because they were just having a heyday with our pecans.
And we would have had several, like you said, he got 3 or 4 gallons, but we could have had 10, 15 gallons if the squirrels hadn't eaten as many, but it was a little late before we realized that they were ready.
We didn't know there was even any pecans on the trees until we saw the squirrels.
And so Danny's like, why is that squirrel in my pecan tree? And he got to looking and he figured it out.
Yeah.
So we've had fun with just keeping up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's changed who we are. We have land to take our Ranger and ride around.
Yep.
Danny's made roads in the woods where we can get from place to place to place.
Food plots.
It's just fun to get out and just ride sometimes and just be a part of nature, watching. Funny thing, we never see anything when we go through there. We can ride all day long, and I know the Ranger makes racket.
Right.
But we never see an animal usually not just jump up on one in the Ranger. They hear it coming and they hide.
Yeah. Now this year, Wanda and I have done something we've both never done before. and that was we baled our own hay.
Yep, we did.
You know, and that was an experience. I've hauled hay my whole life when I was a kid, you know, but I've never been on the side of actually owning the field and baling my own hay.
And actually working that baler and seeing the mechanisms and the way it does. And it's a very complicated piece of machinery.
It is, especially with all the strings and the knots and everything that goes along with it. Yeah.
We didn't get the knot just right to start with, and it was kind of lopsided, and you know.
But we figured it out.
And we had quite some decent bales, and to be honest, our cows loved the hay.
They did. They actually wanted that hay. They ate that hay more than they did the hay that we bought.
They didn't leave any on the ground. No. They ate every smidgen.
Every bit of it.
And so it told us we were on the right track. How big is the field that you cut?
The field I cut is probably 5 acres, I guess, maybe.
But on the other side of Pecan Grove, we have like, what, 15, 20 acres that could be.
We got about 15 acres that could be
cut. So that's our goal. We wanted to play around with that one side before we turn the whole other side into hay fields. And some of that will be paddocks, but some of it will be hay fields. Yeah. And so we have enough that we can make hay, you know.
Well, we'll be able to make our own hay, but this year we also have to build a hay barn. Because we have nowhere right now to stack our hay when we cut our hay.
No.
So,
because the big round bales, we do put a plastic cover over, and that stays outside.
And we will still purchase our round bales from the gentleman who does them because he has clover hay.
Yeah.
And
it's not sprayed.
It's not been sprayed or anything like that. It's that red clover. And we like to feed that to the cows around in all the different paddocks because it comes back up in their paddocks and fertilizes the grass in there for us.
And where we cut the hay, Danny had the foresight last year in January and February to take our clover hay that was left where the cows, when they get through, there's a lot of seed in it. So we have a video where we came over to Pecan Grove and took that and just shook it all over around the pond and just let it go. We didn't mow it. We didn't do anything. So at one point, it was a beautiful clover field. It was sporadic.
Yeah.
But with all that's went on this year, 2024 should have a beautiful clover field out there.
We get enough moisture.
Awesome.
We get enough moisture to get it all up. It should be fine.
Yeah. And so the whole thing of 2023, what is the one thing that comes to mind when you think of 2023?
It was just a big learning curve. You know, I mean, we literally, our lives changed forever, you know, because it's bittersweet, okay? That's what I'm going to say. It's bittersweet. Because we put so much money and time into Deepsouth Homestead. And then when you have people moving in all around you, your peace and your serenity goes away. Mm-hmm. And then they log everything that's on the one side of you that, you know,
so used to all the woods.
All the beautiful big giant timber that was in there, they came in, clear cut every bit of it. Now it looks like a barren desert.
And then the animals started coming up that had never come to our place before.
Right.
We did not have possums that got into our chicken pen. I've been there 10 years, and I don't think we've ever had a possum come up. And how many have you killed, and how many skunks?
Skunks and possums and stuff, I've just eradicated dozens. I mean, it's
crazy.
How many just comes up out of the woods. And then you can't blame them because their home has been destroyed.
Yeah.
But
they were getting into my chicken pens.
Yeah.
Every one of them is hitting my chickens because for a while we were the only people with chickens around. I think the neighbors got some now.
There's a few neighbors having them now.
But for whatever reason, they were hitting my chicken pen. They hit our turkey pen when we had the turkeys this year. And they were just, I think you were up to 6 or 8 skunks.
8 skunks at one point, I know.
And 3 or 4 possums. And the last one was just huge. Danny got scared to death with that
last
thing.
one jumped out on me, man. Looked like a kangaroo. You know, I mean, and I was just like,
He's like, that is the biggest.
My instincts, I just pulled the gun up and fired, and shot him. I shot through the walls of the building and everything. I mean, didn't even think about it. I just jerked up and shot because he jumped right up in my face. But, it's one of those things that it's bittersweet because Wanda and I, we've always known that we would like to own something else. And then when people started moving in all around us and building up houses and everything, we knew at that point that it was time for us to start making some decisions. There's a verse in the Bible that plainly describes that. It says, "Woe unto those that join house unto house and field unto field, that there be found no place that they may be alone in the world." And that's where we're at Deepsouth Homestead. Is it still a great place? Yes, it's still a wonderful place. But we wanted some serenity and peace. So when we come over to Pecan Grove, do we have neighbors? Yeah, we have neighbors. But they're in the distance. They're not right here, right on our face, And we have, do we have to listen to four-wheelers and all kinds of stuff? Yes, we have to listen to all that. We have to listen to barking dogs in the distance. Yeah, and why in the world anybody would tolerate that, I have no idea. But I guess everybody is different, but but it's not like it's just right under our nose like it is at Deepsouth Homestead.
We have buffers because the 40 acres, the way it sits, the neighbors are in the distance, and their houses are not right up on a landline.
Right.
Most everybody's is away from the landline, and so that makes it, when you're in the middle of the 40 acres, you don't have to worry about turning around and seeing somebody because there's not anybody. We can at least have our peace and quiet. And
we come over, we can sit in the shoot house, and you don't hear nothing.
And you're not going to see nobody.
You're not going to see nobody unless they're trespassing. But and around on the property, we go around on the property. We don't see anyone. Now we have a neighbor occasionally that we'll run into, and we don't mind that because he's an elderly gentleman, and
we have another neighbor that off and on
we do see him.
See him if we go by that fence line. But his house is way away from the fence line.
His house is a good 10 acres from the fence.
But he does come up toward the fence at times, bush hogging and stuff, and Dad will stop and
I'll stop and talk to him because I'm usually doing the same thing,
We know the people, and they're good people.
All of them are good people.
And all, but, we like being in the middle. We like having some privacy. When we're riding around, we don't want to be seeing other people all over the place too. And that's where I think our lives changed forever. We ended up with some of the privacy back that we were so wanting because over the past 3 years, our privacy had disappeared at Deepsouth.
Yeah. That's, I guess that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It is the simple fact that we sit on the front porch now, we're looking in the front door of somebody else's house. And then I own the road there at Deepsouth. And traffic is up and down the road and everything, and there's nothing you can do about it because those people live back in there, and I would not try to stop them from going into their house.
It went from 2-3 years ago, one car every few hours maybe. Sometimes you go all day long and no cars go in and out.
Right.
Because everybody left early morning and went to work and came in late evening. Now it's all day long, every day. Somebody's on the road, going up and down the road, and it's.
And the dust, because of all the drought we're in over here at Deepsouth Homestead, the dust is just unreal.
Yeah,
it's just,
you can't keep anything dusty.
We actually went in and brought in the limestone and put on the road and everything in front of our property to try to stop it, but it doesn't matter.
It's still dusty.
Still dusty. And so, to break it all down, put it in a nutshell, Wanda and I have been blessed, and I sat and I talked to God about this a lot. I'm like, Lord, why did you wait till I was in my mid-60s to bless me with what you wanted me to have in life. And you know, Wanda and I, if we had purchased a piece of property like this when we first got married over at Pecan Grove, that piece, then all the effort that we put into Deepsouth Homestead would have been put into somewhere like Pecan Grove, and we would have already not have to redo infrastructure and stuff like that in our old age. But I don't question what God does in our lives. Maybe we couldn't have handled it at that time. I don't know.
We might not would have had the foresight.
Well, we might not have appreciated it.
I mean, we would have just said, "Hey, look," and jumped in with both feet, and not really thought about things.
Yeah.
At this point, we think about everything we do at Pecan Grove. We try to, is it beneficial? Will it help us? And now we are turning that to Deepsouth also.
Yeah.
Before we do anything at Deepsouth Homestead, how beneficial is it?
How's
will it work better at Pecan Grove, or will it work better at Deepsouth? So every decision that we make this year will have to be based on which property best benefits whatever we're doing at that time. You know, we have all our facilities, and like with the deer, we have a place to process the deer. We have the cooler where we can put the deer in the cooler and things like that.
We don't have all that at Pecan Grove.
No.
We have all that at Deepsouth Homestead.
But at Deepsouth Homestead, we don't have the deer coming in because of all the people around us.
Right.
So, you know, it's one or the other.
Well, it's like you have a place to go and hunt, and then it's like having a lease somewhere. You know, you go hunt a lease, and when you take a deer, you bring him home and you process him, and that's what we've done today. As a matter of fact, we've had one hanging in the cooler here at Deepsouth Homestead, and it's been a blessing to be able to hang a deer in a cooler for several days, and then to bone it out, and you know.
The cooler's been a really good investment.
Matter of fact, we still have meat sitting in the cooler right now at 34 degrees.
To make sausage.
Waiting to make sausage in the next day or two. So I mean, we're enjoying the blessings of both places. Mm-hmm. You know, is it taxing on our life at this age? And the answer is yes, because it's a lot of back and forth. Mm-hmm. You know, we're trying to balance all that out, or so that like if we come over to Pecan Grove and it's gardening that we're doing, we want to make sure we have everything over here that we need to do the gardening with, so that we don't get over here and go, oh man, it's at Deepsouth Homestead, you know, what we need. So we're trying during the winter months to make sure that we have everything that we need at both locations. In other words, whatever we're doing at Deepsouth, we want to make sure we have everything there. Whatever we're doing at Pecan Grove, we want to make sure we have everything there. One of the big issues right now is our cattle. I mean, here at Deepsouth Homestead, the cows are, you know, they're out of anything to eat because of the drought, and the
fields are dry. The
fields are no grass. There's just nothing nowhere, and we're having to feed hay constantly. At Pecan Grove, there's grass. Mm-hmm. And we're still trying to fence in some more paddock area.
We don't have enough paddocks to house that many deer, that many cows.
Yeah, that many cows right now. Well, the deer are eating up our grass. It's crazy, but
yeah, I mean,
we've planted a lot of ryegrass at Pecan Grove and all the pastures that's around on it, and as a result, we have the only ryegrass in an area around us, and every deer from every piece of property around is coming to Pecan Grove to eat ryegrass, because I stay over a lot of times at night just to see, and I can shine my light out and all you see is eyes everywhere.
And we originally thought during the day we would see there was about 4 different deer.
Yeah.
And we pretty much knew those deer, and we would get them on camera. We would catch a glimpse of them here and there. So we thought, you know, 4 or 5 deer, something like that.
Not too
and none
bad.
of them were bucks. They were all, well, no, there was one little buck.
One little buck, yeah.
And so we kind of thought we knew what was going on, till all of a sudden,
oh yeah,
the camera started picking up 7 and 8 deer at a time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the same as what we were seeing before.
No,
some of them were, but some of them weren't.
We went from one day having like 500 videos to in 2 days we'd have thousands of videos on our cameras, and they're not the same deer. I mean, they're
different times. They're coming in the morning. They're coming in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They're coming in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. Some of them's coming in at 7 o'clock at night, at 9 o'clock at night, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so we have video of, I don't know how many thousands, and I want to do some videos, but they're 10-second increments.
Yeah.
And so when you have several thousand 10-second increments, it takes a while.
It takes a while just to look through them.
But we saw our first
nice buck.
Big buck this week.
Yeah.
On camera at 9-something at night.
9:30 at night. Yeah.
And so Danny's anxious to see if he comes back.
Yep.
We've seen another deer that has one horn and one horn laying down.
Yeah, this is real weird. One horn sticks up straight and the other one's laying crossways of it. You know?
You can see it laying across there.
Yeah.
Then we saw the one that looked like a cow.
We have one that's as big as my cows,
and
he's got big old tall spikes up on his head, but he looks like a calf. He's so big and
he's bulky.
Bulky, you know?
And each one of them takes on their own personalities.
Yep.
And then we have some of them that we have one mama that's just mean.
Oh, we have one mean mama.
We just know she's mean.
She's a boss. She just runs everybody away from all the food that's out there.
So and they're all different colors.
Yeah, all different colors.
Is the deer are all different colors.
Yeah.
And once you get to looking, the does are harder to define, but you can
You'll figure it out. Yeah, you figure it out after a while based on their hair color and stuff.
And we have a bunch of babies.
Lots of babies.
We only knew we had one baby to start with. We kept getting one mama and one baby all the time. And about 2-3 weeks ago, all of a sudden, there was twins with one mama, twins with another mama. One had one, and these are mamas that we hadn't seen before.
Right, these are mamas.
We're not sure where they're coming from.
Where they came from.
And so they're on one side of the property, and then on the other side of the property is the mama that we knew about, and then all of a sudden there was another mama with a baby. So we know there was quite a few born.
Well, we did y'all watched our video on Pecan Grove where we drove out in the field and it looked like Santa Claus taking off with his reindeer. That was like a couple of mamas and 4 or 5 babies just took off across the field.
There was 8 or 9 deer in that group that night.
Yeah.
And most of them were babies.
Yeah, most all of them were little babies. Yeah.
And then what we've seen at the food plot and different places around the green pastures that we have, there's 7 and 8 deer at a time, and most of those are mamas.
Yeah.
There's like 1 or 2 babies maybe in that group.
And then all the turkeys. We have tons. Now the turkeys haven't been back in the last month?
Probably.
About the last month, but up till that point, we had just
2 different batches.
I mean, we had whole groups of jakes. We had whole groups of hens. We had, with little ones. We had whole groups of nothing but very mature long-beard gobblers. I mean, there was all these animals were just everywhere because we were putting out food plot feed and all that kind of stuff.
Danny planted peas, kale, ryegrass. He planted
all kinds of
everything.
clover, you name it. I had all that stuff in the food plot.
And it was all coming up. It was all 1 inch or 2 tall. It was green. It was beautiful. And all of a sudden, they ate every pea.
The turkeys found it.
The turkeys picked them, and the grass is still there.
Yeah, the grass is still there. Yeah.
But the turkeys will individually pick every pea plant out of there.
Every one of them. And every clover.
And so that means we enjoy. That's things we're learning to enjoy.
Yeah.
In our old age, we're just gonna.
And we found a place that we talked about on one of our videos where there was a big old giant azalea bush. And we found at this azalea, we found like a kitchen sink in the water. We found a hose sticking up out of the ground.
And right behind it, we found the old camp stove.
We found an old camp stove back there.
Yeah. And
it show you how God answers questions for you.
We had no clue.
We looked at it and we said, man, this somebody planted an azalea where this spring comes out of the ground. It's got a market or something, you know. Well, there was a gentleman just showed up one day here from North Carolina, and he dropped in and he said, "Well, this is my name." He said, "I'm looking for so and so." I said, "Well, they don't live here anymore. We purchased the property now." And he said, "Oh," and we got to talking, and he said, after we talked for like 20 or 30 minutes, he said, "You know," he said, "I know he's passed away, and he probably won't mind if I say something." He said, "But you know, there's a pond on the back of this property back here." And I said, "Yeah, I know right where you're talking about." And he goes, "Yeah," he said, "behind that pond is an old azalea bush we put there." He said, "There's a little spring head comes out of the ground right there." I said, "Man, I know exactly where that's at." I said, "We've been wondering what that is." He said, "Well, we had a still back then." And he said, "We made our own moonshine." You know, and I was like, "Oh my word!" I said, "We knew."
That was not the thing we were thinking of.
No, that wasn't what we was thinking. Might have went on there, but he said, "Yep." He said, "We sure did." He said, "We made our own liquor right there." He said, "I don't think he'd mind me saying it. He's gone now, you know." Yep. He said, "But he said we did."
And then he told us about on the back side of the property. He said we had found the old pond, and it looked like it had never held water, and
right.
that, like, there's trees all growed up everywhere in the pond, and there's trees on the dam and behind the dam, and so it could, if it was ever fixed, it would take a lot of work. And so we found that early on in the spring, and we were wondering about it also. And he told us that he was the one that helped start building that pond and got his dozer.
They got a big D8 dozer stuck in the mud down in there, and he said they had to bring another one in to winch it all out and everything. He said it was just a big giant mud hole down in there.
And it never held water, he said.
Yep, he said it never held no water.
So that answered our question about that pond, because we had thought about, you know, maybe trying to fix it, but it's in bad shape.
Well, it's just when you drive up on it, it's just pretty to look at.
Yeah, I like the look of it as is.
Because you see all these trees, big old giant trees growing on the dam, and then there's trees all out in where the water grows. You know, it's just pretty to look at because there's nothing but pine straw on the ground.
And when the water comes up, and there was water in the early spring, it filled up with one of the rains. Yeah. And it was like a little pond.
It was pretty.
And it stayed there for a week or two, and then it would gradually go down, which means it doesn't hold water.
Right.
And so with the drought, though, it's been dry all summer. Danny's actually been all over it.
Oh, you can drive all around in it now. I mean, yeah, I've been all over it, but
And so, you know, we got a few questions answered this year on that, and
but you know, guys, it's always a journey. You know, life is a journey. I decided early on in my life, those of you who watch my Porch Times will know, you'll know, I decided early on in my life I wasn't going to wait to retire until I'm old. I retired at a very young age, and I said, you know what, I may never own anything, but I'm going to live. And people would ask me when I retired, they were, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "What do you mean, what do I do for a living?" They said, "Yeah, what do you do for a living?" I said, "I live for a living." I said, "Now, if you want to know how I make money," I said, "I'm a contractor." And I said, "I might pick up a little nitpick job here and there, where I can wire somebody's house for them, or, lay some tile in a bathroom, or, some little nitpick little job that don't take me but a day or two to do. And I'm back free again. I said, I refuse to let money rule my life. And as a result,
that's been our goal since we married. We had zero money basically.
We're talking about poor. We were poor.
Danny owned Deepsouth. And he owned his vehicle. But Debbie had passed away. All the money that he had ever saved up or done anything with went to help with cancer cost and funeral cost. So he was just picking up odd jobs to make ends meet at that point. And when we met, I was going to school. I was in college. So I had no job. Yeah. And what little bit of money we had went to pay the power bill and the phone bill and stuff like that.
Okay, there's something we have to tell right now.
Uh-oh.
The one thing Miss Wanda was scared to death of. When we got married, she says, I've lived in some pretty bad situations. And she says, I've never had to worry, I've never had a steady paycheck to count on or anything like that. She says, so that don't bother me. I'm used to that kind of life.
But I've always had power.
She's always had power, and she's always had toilet paper.
And I've always had food.
Yeah, and she said, Danny, what if we don't have any power? What if we don't have any toilet paper? What if we don't have any food? I said, what if it snows in July? So then what?
We had to learn the first year.
Yeah.
Or I did, how to just let God, which God has always been a big deal in my life. I've always just let God kind of rule. I've always been the odd one when it came to things like that.
Yeah.
And so I let what ifs get a big part of me, and I kept going, what if I can't afford toilet paper? What if I can't do this? And so power, I mean, that first year.
First year was tough.
Was very tough.
It was tough.
We cut everything we could cut so that the power bill would not be high. And that 1 month, the power company gives away free power at their annual meeting, and we ended up with $100, which covered our power for that month. And I could see God's hands.
Because we're in a rural cooperative power situation. They send out a card, and you fill that card out and you mail it back in. And when they have their annual meeting,
they draw for
free power for a month. Well, not free power, but $100
gift card on the power
towards your power or something like that. And Wanda and I won that year. We won the $100 free gift toward power, and our power that month was $100.
It was amazing.
So God was, I mean, we see the hand of God in a lot of things.
And then with the toilet paper, where he was going with the craziness in my toilet paper, when we started doing YouTube and we were doing live streams and things like that, every time it come up something about no toilet paper, I'm like, I'm going to have my toilet paper.
People living off grid, they're going like, we live off grid,
And I would sit there, and every time we go to town, I'd buy toilet paper.
She would. I said, Wanda, we don't have the money for that. And she says, I'm going to have my toilet paper.
So I made sure I had at least a year and a half supply of toilet paper, even though we didn't have a lot at that point. We had toilet paper. And then one lady sent me some cloths, some family cloths. And she said, I don't mean to be presumptuous. She said, God laid it on my heart to send you these. And I looked at Danny and I almost cried.
She did almost cry.
I said, I had not even thought about family cloths. And y'all, I still to this day, it's been 6-7 years.
Yeah.
I still have my family cloths. I still like them. I still have a stash of toilet paper.
Yeah.
But that lady blessed my heart, and from there I made some of my own and things like that, and I've done a few videos on them and showed people not to be afraid of things, but to think outside the box.
Think outside the box.
Something I would not have thought of.
Yeah.
And so far we've never been without power. Our power's always been paid.
Yeah.
And Danny and I just started letting God just lead us whichever way we went, whether it was YouTube or when we're in town, when we had guests over at Deepsouth Homestead, we just felt led to do something. That's what we did. And God has blessed us with 2 beautiful properties, and each one unique and different in its own aspect.
Yep.
We've got unique things that we're going to be doing on each one of them over the next year. And I just feel blessed.
I feel blessed.
2023 may have changed our life, but it changed it for the better.
For the better. I agree. So guys, I know this has been a long video tonight, but forgive us for that. But we just wanted to share, 2023 was a year that changed our life forever. Mm-hmm. We will forever be grateful to the Lord for His blessings upon our life. For allowing us to have another piece of property where we can have some peace and quiet. That's big to me and Wanda in our older age, because some people, you go to their house and the TV blares 24 hours a day, and they don't even know what it means to be quiet. And that's what life was becoming like at Deepsouth Homestead over here four-wheelers running all the time, people screaming all the time. People's got pools put in, there's pool parties going on. You know, just
we didn't have the TV going, but
we didn't have the TV,
but
the external noise outside there. You didn't matter what you do, you could sit in your house and you couldn't even hear your own self think in the house because of all the noise going on in the neighborhood. And we're like, do people not know what it means to be quiet?
But
you know?
In their defense, they have the TV going. We don't.
Right.
So when I'm in my house, it's quiet. I don't play the radio. I don't have YouTube going all the time and all this stuff. I like quiet. That's why when I got the new stove and it made racket when it
the convection part
the convection come on went to humming, it would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
I like more peace and quiet. I like to hear nature. I like to be able to know, is Danny, if I'm listening, I can hear the tractor in the distance or the lawnmower. And if something happens and it doesn't crank back up in 5-10 minutes, okay, do I need to go check on him? Do I need to see if something's going on? Instead of listening to a YouTube video 24/7 or a radio or a TV, and he gets off and gets hurt, and he lays there for hours because nobody thinks anything about it, you know.
Yeah.
I think of those type things.
Yeah.
So I like the peace and quiet.
We like the peace and quiet. And so, anyway, that's where we're at tonight, guys. Yes, our lives have changed. And you know what? Y'all have been a part of that.
A big part.
A big part of it. These Saturday nights, we have sat back and done videos. You know, Wanda and I have not hardly had any Saturday nights off in over 6 years. And, you know, we're probably going to be changing that some so that we have some time to spend together. And not that we don't like spending time with you guys. We're going to still do these premieres, and we're going to still put the live chats up so you guys can talk amongst one another and ask questions. And
we may do a live outside at Pecan Grove sometimes. We're going to test that.
We're testing the system at Pecan Grove to see.
Hadn't tried that yet to see what's going to. We haven't had time being sick.
Right.
To really test the system and see how far it'll reach, what it'll do. We hope some pop-up lives. We won't be scheduling every Saturday night now. It'll probably, if we do a live, it'll be pop-up.
It'll just be a random one. You know, that's what I tell you, you better have your notifications set, because if we do one and the system that we've installed over at Pecan Grove actually works, then you know, we'll just do something sporadic.
Him working on the fence or something, you know, and y'all just ask questions about fencing, or if he's doing something with the cows.
Working on a high tunnel or the cows.
Yeah, the high tunnel's another project. And or you just want to see the cows. You want me to turn it on and put over there and y'all watch the cows in the field. We might even do some of that one day. And
we'll
the condo.
See. And the condo. If it works at the condo, that would be really nice.
We have not had time to play around and test, but we will see if any of that works. It would be great to do a live from the condo.
It would. It would. It would be live. Anyway, guys, we love you and we appreciate you. And guys, y'all have a blessed new year this year. And, you know, I've told you 2024 is going to be a year like a roller coaster. So get ready. I can't go into a lot of detail right now about what, you know, things that we've heard. But you know what? Keep your faith in the Lord strong and keep your eyes to the skies. Because when I tell you to look up, things are going to be changing around you based on looking up. Just look up, okay? Because you'll see what I'm talking about at some point. Thank you guys from Deepsouth Homestead.